Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Engler Journey podcast. I am your host, Olivia Vanderford, and today I have the pleasure of being with one of the most creative minds in the Engler program, Liz Young, and it's so nice to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Olivia.
Yeah, and you're so involved in the Engler program. You're on the communications team, you are an exec member, and you also have your own photography business.
Yep.
So what do you love about taking on all these different roles in the Engler program?
Honestly, I feel like I didn't even know what I stepped into when I stepped into the Engler program. I was like, you know what, let's try something new. I knew there was a lot of great kids here, and I kind of just jumped in head first, really. How I got introduced into the communications team, I was sitting in Brave Conversations, and they were like, I was talking about how I loved video, how I loved photo. And they're like, oh, have you seen there's an opening on the communications team? And I was like, oh, what's that? You know, I didn't really understand the whole deal. And then suddenly I applied and had an interview and got the position, and it was awesome. I started with video. I did that for a year or a year and a half, and my passions kind of shifted. I like to say I got a little burnout from video. It's a lot of editing. Haley was gracious enough to let my role kind of shift, and so now I'm more on the strategic side. So I help Jillian with the Instagram. I do a lot of the photography stuff too. I love editing. I love laying things out, seeing how it's going to look on the feed, that kind of stuff. And then with the exec role, honestly didn't know that was going to happen either. I saw a leadership application open, and I was like, you know what, why not? I know it's going to be a great opportunity. Everything I've done here has been awesome. So yeah, it's just kind of been a whirlwind, and I've loved every second.
Yeah, so you've immersed yourself into the Engler program throughout your years here in college. So why did you want to get started? And when you first stepped into the Engler program, why did you feel like this was a great community?
Well, I kind of have a unique start. So I kind of heard about the Engler program every once in a while, and I think it was one of my last weeks of freshman year. I came here to study here in the second floor of Dinsdale, and I'd never been here before, and I was like, wow, first of all, this library is so nice.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it here. And second, what's all these saddles and boots and everything up here? I want to know more. I was absolutely amazed by the space. I was like, what is going on up here? I need to be a part of this. And so I knew Cade Weezy just through mutual friends, and I was like, Cade, I know you're in the program. What's this all about? And he kind of got me set up, and I emailed Tom, and I was like, hey, I'd love to have a tour. I mean, I'd love to figure out what this whole thing's about, like I said. And I set up a tour, and I remember I was sitting outside in the library on one of the chairs for like 15 minutes, just working up the courage to go in because I was so nervous. Just didn't know what was going on. And I finally worked up the confidence to go in, and Tom showed me around the space, and I was like, holy cow. I had no idea what entrepreneurship was to begin with. And I was like, this is awesome. Showed me all the people on the wall. I loved the pictures. And I was like, you know what? I could see myself up there too. Like, I want to be up there. There's so many amazing opportunities. So I think the community aspect started when I went to my first Brave Conversations. Hallie, I met her kind of first, and she was like, you should try out Brave Conversations. And I was like, okay, why not? And immediately I was welcomed there. People wanted to get to know me. They wanted to hear my story. And I instantly felt a sense of community there, really. And ever since, I'd look for those girls, and at all of the events, they'd make me feel welcome. And that's, you know, what I want to be able to give other people too. I want to make sure they feel welcome when they come in this space. So through the exec team and through, even the communications team, I feel like I can do that because I want to give people what I've been given. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and what are your favorite events here in the Engler program?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think my all-time favorite event we've had is probably our Roots event. That was like a vision come to life. I remember the exec team had kind of an idea to do it, and then we kind of collaborated with the experience team a little bit, and I was like, this is awesome. Because on our leadership training day, Tom went through the history of the Engler program, the leadership teams, the history of Paul, everything. And they used to have some really neat events, and we kind of wanted to embody what it used to be like in, oh gosh, what was it called? Miller Hall. We wanted to embody what it was like there, and I was like, this is going to be so awesome. I love hearing the story of how this program came to be. And so my Roots event, that was probably my favorite by far. That was awesome.
Paul, he was a leader in his own right. So what was the impact he had on your life?
Although I didn't get to directly meet Paul, I just love hearing stories about him. I could listen to Tom talk about it all day. Lately, I got to make the Instagram post of our founder, and so I got to dig in and find some information about Paul and look at the pictures. And although I've never met him, it feels like I've met him. And so I wish I would have met him, but I just want to be able to, just give my thanks to him and what he's done for this program and for all these students.
He's really given all these students opportunities to really find what their passions are. And the Engler program is unique because the classes are unique in themselves. So could you talk about the classes and some of the ones you've enjoyed?
Of course, I loved 101. That's a good intro. And when I didn't know really what was going on, that was kind of led me down the right path. I kind of needed some direction. So that was awesome, and that's where I met all the staff and students too. I built some relationships there with Cade Weezy, like I said, and then Caden Conley was in my cohort too, and we're still great friends now, and we get to talk about photography together, so that's always awesome. But 101 was great. I loved hearing Tom tell stories, and it was inspirational, really. Like, I would leave class being like, wow, like, we're going to go out there and we're going to change the world. It was pretty awesome. And then now I'm in Enterprise Studio, and although it's not really necessarily a class, I've already learned so much. It's one of those things where it's like, you're going to do a lot of the work. They're going to tell you how you can do it and where you can find the resources, but at the end of the day, you've got to figure out how to do it yourself. And so that's been really good for me because I've had to think outside the box and reach out to people I normally wouldn't reach out to and be like, hey, can you help me here? Or can you do this for me? So it's been such a great experience. And Brandon's been a great mentor in that way, where he has kind of like an analytical brain and can see through some things that I can't really see through. So he's challenged me there. And I'm working on getting my LLC right now. And I always joke about it. I was like, I didn't even know what an LLC meant 2 weeks ago, and now here we are preparing for that day. So it's been such a great experience. So those two classes really have made an impact in my life.
Yeah, and such great classes and life skills you learn from that. So your photography business, could you tell me about that and how you got started and why you love photography?
Yeah, I've always kind of loved photography. As a kid, I would always look on social media or YouTube. I was a big YouTube girl. And I look at the content people were making and I'd be like, I want to do that. Like, that's so neat. Like, I love this shot, or I love the way they did this. And so I remember I was begging my parents for a camera, and they got me a camera, oh gosh, maybe when my freshman year of high school for Christmas. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I love this. And so that's kind of how I got started. I would just take pictures of my friends, and that was at the moment where I absolutely loved video too. So I would make summer recap videos, high school stuff. And I absolutely loved it. And so it was kind of just one of those things I did for fun, just to capture stuff. And then even at family events, my mom would be like, bring your camera. We need to capture this. So it's one of those things where I do it for fun, and I do it to make memories for myself and for my friends too, but I want to do that for other people. And so this past year, when I was in 201, I really had to sit back and be like, okay, I need to make this a business. Brandon again was pushing me. He's like, how are you going to do this? What are the next steps you're taking? Because it was more of just I'll book a shoot when someone asks me or whatnot. But he really pushed me, and he's like, you need to keep climbing the mountain, as Tom says, climbing the mountain. And so I definitely had to do that. And I actually took a journalism photography class that same semester, and that absolutely pushed me outside of my comfort zone and made me, just think differently about photography. And ever since 201 in that journalism photography class, I've kind of really taken off and just thought about could I make this a full-time reality for myself? And it's just been awesome. This past year has been an absolute learning experience. Went from a hobby to, okay, let's look at this as a business, but I know in my heart it's still my little hobby. I just have to take it a little bit more serious.
What's been one of your favorite photo shoots that you've done, and why do you think what was the story behind it?
Engler-wise, we did a women's photo shoot, and that was such a ball. I've always wanted to do a studio shoot, and so I was like, Haley, me and Jillian have this idea. Can we book out this studio in Lincoln and have the girls come? And it took some convincing. It sounded a little wild at first, and I was like, no, trust us. Like, we got this. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. And it ended up being so much fun. I loved it. All the girls came. It was more of like a social event than anything. We got to just be together and dress up and just hype each other up, give each other confidence. And so that was definitely one of my favorite angler shoots. I absolutely loved it. And then going back to my business, there's been a lot of really fun moments. I always think of my first proposal I did. It was for two of my really good friends, and I honestly had a little idea of what I was doing, but I had one of my friends shoot it with me, and it was such a great learning experience. I remember I wasn't even in the right position I was supposed to be in when they were walking in. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm panicked, like trying to get the right shots and stuff. And I just look back at that shoot, and it just brings me like all the emotions I got from the day, and just being able to capture such a big milestone for somebody else, especially one of my great friends, is just so special. And it's been awesome. And those are the photo shoots I really love. Is like when I can capture something big for somebody else. Like even if I did a 60th birthday party for one of my dad's buddies, and that was like the best. And I know we'll be able to look back on those photos and just be able to smile. And I think that's really what it's all about.
So photography, really, you get to capture those moments and tell that story for someone that they'll always remember.
Yeah.
So what do you love about storytelling, and what does being a storyteller mean to you?
You know, I've pondered this question a lot, and I feel like I don't know if I'll ever have like an exact definition of what being a storyteller is. It's almost that feeling you get after listening to a story or watching a movie or looking at photos. I think that's definitely what it is for me. It's not the process itself, but it's like looking back and being like, holy cow, like that made me feel joy, or that made me feel sadness. Definitely just like the reflection period after is what storytelling is to me. Just being able to look back and feel all those emotions again.
Yeah, you get to capture that moment and really bring people together around an event or a special moment in someone's life.
Yeah, and I feel like usually we don't know we're telling stories until it's over, and we look back and we're like, oh wow, like that was so awesome. You know, looking at video or photos and being like, oh, I remember that moment. I remember when so-and-so was telling that story or whatnot. So yeah, I don't really have an exact definition. It's more of like a feeling for me, for sure.
Yeah. So 20 years from now, I love asking this question because you may look back at this podcast 20 years from now, maybe not.
Yeah.
But what will you be so thankful for being in the Engler program?
Oh gosh, I think just the community. Like I feel so uplifted when I walk through the garage doors here at Engler. I feel like a spark that's lit inside of me. It's just so neat being able to look at other people that's our age and just see them thriving and doing things that, I mean, a 40-year-old couldn't even imagine. It's just so neat, just learning from people, being able to connect. I think that's one of my favorite things about this program is being able to like come to the table and just talk with people about their business, talk about life itself. It's like just such a heightened conversation and level of maturity that I haven't really experienced elsewhere. I mean, you have experiences like that on campus too, but here it's like, it just feels so much different and so unique. So just being able to like look back, and I hope I can look back at the people I've met here and still connect with them. I don't want to lose that connection, and I want to make sure that I make an effort to see and connect with all the people that have been in this program with me, really.
Yeah, they're just like a strong community of young people who work hard and know what their dreams are. And I'm so glad that we get to share their stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here today, Liz. I loved learning more about your story, and can't wait to see what your photography does in the future.
Thank you. I had such a great time.